host, Prince Magnum. Welcome to one of my special lists, where in this list I'm going to give you all 7 tips on helping you win car shows. These are tips that have helped me. So if you're going to a car show for the first time, maybe you just got your project on the road. Maybe it's as close to done as you can get it, if that's a thing, or maybe it's still a work in progress. Regardless, these are just tips that have helped me out. I hope they help you out. They're not a guaranteed win. I wish that was the case, but that's not what we're doing here. This is just something to help you get closer to winning trophies. All right. So here it is, in no particular order: 7 tips for winning car shows from me. Um, number one. Number one. Uh, think outside the box. You go to a car show, and I've been to 6 last year, and you see all the usual suspects. You'll see Camaros, Mustangs, Novas, Chevelles, on and on and on. You get the idea. You see all the usual suspects. Um, that being said, if you get a car, if you get a Mustang, especially a Mustang or a Camaro or a Firebird or a Trans Am, you're already competing against these people. Um, so your chances of winning are going to be a lot slimmer. Pick something that nobody's seen in a while. Um, Tell me, when's the last time you all seen a Ford Granada or a Mercury Montego? Or well, you get the idea. Or even like a Chevy Vega or a Monza. Think outside the box. Do something that nobody else is doing. Um, because of this, automatically, because it's different, the judges will automatically gravitate towards it. Also, when it comes to engines, a lot of people do the same engine. Pop the hood of a Chevelle, and you'll see a 350. Go to the Camaro next to it, and you'll see the same 350. You know, do something different. Um, think outside the box. With Project Spirit, because we're getting ready to start doing car shows again. Car shows season starting up around here. Because we're doing I'm still rocking the inline six automatically. Nobody else is doing that. So automatically the judges are going to look at that. They're going to remember that. Oh, that's that car that's still using an inline six, and he's done all this nice detail work, and it sounded great when he came in, and blah, blah, blah. You see where this is going. It's something that stands out. So when you think outside the box, it gives you an inside track. So don't be afraid to do something different. Okay. Number 2, do what you can afford. Now again, with Project Spirit, I would love to have like a 351 modified and a 4-speed manual, with with like you know the bucket seats, and just do all the crazy cool car stuff that we all love. But I haven't got that kind of cash, and I'm betting there's a lot of you out there who don't have this kind of cash. Don't let that deter you. Okay, you do what you can afford. If the engine's solid, and it can get you to the car show and get you home without it breaking down, that's all you need. Okay, you don't have to have, just because your Camaro has a 305, um, doesn't make it any less than the car that has the 350. If your Mustang, um, you know, has a two, has a 289 instead of a 302, well, guess what? That's cooler to me. I mean, do what you can afford, you know, and you'll see where 1 and 2 really blend in together. You do what you can afford, and you think outside the box. You're starting to see. Number 3, it doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, obviously, Project Spirit is a far cry from perfect. Um, but she does pretty doggone good at the car shows. And believe it or not, I've actually had someone tell me, when it comes to your older cars, your vintage cars, ones that have not been touched, uh, that still has its original paint and has dents and dings and scuffs. Believe it or not, that's actually becoming popular. The ones that have not been touched. Um, so imperfection sometimes gives you an inside track. I'm not saying that it's always a definite, but something to think about. Um, just one of those things that Um, but again, um, I've also seen people that have had beautiful cars. They weren't quite, you know, exactly what some people would consider show worthy, but they should have been showed. And the person's like, they're not done. Show it anyways. Okay? Doesn't have to be perfect. Um, Number four, know your car's tail of the tape. I have seen people make this mistake. When we were still showing Project Beauty, I actually seen somebody came in who had just bought the car the day before. It was nice looking, and then they came to the car show and didn't know anything about the car. Believe it or not, they were more or less glanced over. Um, a lot of car shows will ask for certain information, engine, transmission, um, all that stuff. They didn't know any of it. So because of this, they're glanced over, and they could have won a trophy if they'd at least taken the time before they got to that car show to get all the information about the car. Something to think about. All right, number five, select a category you have a shot at. Um, with aforementioned tips, and you all won't be shocked to know this, you're going to see a lot of cars from the 50s. You're going to see a lot of cars from the 60s. You're going to see a few of them at the beginning of the 70s, and then pretty much it dwindles off where there isn't much in the way of competition, and then right about the late 90s to current date, you'll see an awful lot of. Um, Basically, that's a spot I'm going to say from, if you were to twist my arm, from about 1974 up to the early 90s, that's left wide open, and that's around my area. Go to a couple car shows and see, and then build your car around what categories you don't see a whole lot of competition in. As a matter of fact, because Princess Faye and I were rocking two Mavericks, um, because of the time frame and what we're doing to the cars, oftentimes put us in categories that we didn't have a whole lot in the way of competition. So because of that, it gave us an inside track. Okay, something to think about. Um, as a matter of fact, there's even been some shows where I was the only one in my category. So some of you might try to say, well, shoot, you didn't have any competition. That's not even win. No, a win is a win. Okay, a win is a win. It's just like racing. Doesn't matter if you win by an inch or you win by a mile. Winning is winning. Okay, so just remember that. I mean, and automatically when you get that trophy, oh man, that was so cool. I'm glad your car got a trophy. Everyone loves it. Okay, they're very happy for you. No one puts you down for it. Okay, as a matter of fact, the first place trophy that Princess Faye got, she was the only one who had the brass to do one in her category. That's why she won. All right, moving on. Moving on. Pay attention to detail. Um, when it's obviously a no-brainer if you're doing a restoration. You have to pay attention to that detail to get every part exactly as it was when it left the factory. Duh. Everybody knows that. Um, if you don't know that, judges look for that stuff specifically. So just kind of bear that in mind. But when you're doing custom, um, a part that basically, if you have something in your car that you think would look better in a different color, paint it, or change it. Do whatever. If you think you can do it and customize it, the sky's the limit. As a matter of fact, let me give you an example, and I should have showed her when I had the chance, but I didn't. Uh, if you all remember the stories about Blue Thunder, one of the things that we actually did was her horn button popped off, and there was if you know the centerpieces of the Camaros around that time, and the Trans Ams and the Firebirds, you could take that little emblem out. It was just a plastic insert. Um, and basically I took some polished aluminum. And basically it was just aluminum plate, and I cut it down and fit it right inside that slot. And basically put it back in there and polished it up really nice. Looked different. No one's seen that before. It was custom. If you can think of it, do it. That's where all the artwork comes in on Project Spirit. And the judges like that. They like stuff like that. And it stands out in their mind, gives you an inside track. That's why whenever I was doing the 4th of July car show, last year, um, you know, 4th of July 2016, we had, that gave me an inside track. And there was actually more than just, you know, I took second place, and there was a couple other cars that, were really nice, but I had the inside track on that. So just bear that in mind. All right, moving on to number 7. Be a friendly gearhead. I really shouldn't have to say this. And how many times have we heard it in every video on YouTube? Don't be that guy. Well, this is one of those times. Definitely do not be that guy. I have seen where gearheads will take their cars to a car show, and because they had a nasty attitude, because they were cocky and arrogant, my car's best out here, whoop everybody, crap like that. I basically, number one, I've seen the judges basically, all the other gearheads wanted him out of there, and the judges just more or less glanced over his car. When we did the car show for West County High School, there was basically there was a lot of good-looking Mustangs there, and they actually had to have a Mustang category specifically because of this reason, which they already suspected that. Already trophies done up, really nice. There was a particular gentleman there who had a late model Mustang that legitimately should have won his class. He should have taken first place, if not at least second place. And because he was being a douchebag, he didn't win anything. The car that took first place was pretty much a really gorgeous looking car. The car that took second place was really nice. The car that took third place, his car legitimately, I think it should have at least gotten second, but because he was being a douchebag, he didn't get anything. And at one point, basically, he was more or less told, shut up, or we're going to have to ask you to leave, because he was being a douchebag to all the other gearheads and to the judges. So, something to think about. We hear it all the time. Don't be that guy. This is definitely one of those times. If you want to take home a trophy, don't be that guy. Leave your attitude at home. Just be friendly. Just be friendly. Because if the judges need to talk to you about something and you're being friendly and nice and just good personality through and through, chances are they asked what they asked you is going to play in your favor. Okay? Something to think about. All right. That brings us to this point where I don't have any more tips, but I do have a bonus story to tell you about, and something that I hope will help all of you when you go to show your car this year. When we did the 4th of July car show last year, 2016, when we did that car show, I had wandered off at one point. Princess Faye didn't want to go with me. She just wanted to sit there and draw some pictures. And she, I wandered off to look at this beautiful looking 4-door 57 Chevy. I love cars from the 50s, but I went to go take a look at this car. Gorgeous looking, gorgeous looking. Still work in progress, but it was still beautiful. But anyhow, I digress. Princess Faye was sitting there, and this family walks up, and I guess what would have been the grandma, because I kind of came back at the tail end of it, but basically when she walked up, she more or less looked at both Mavericks and said, "Finally, real cars." And one of her family members said, "Real cars? What do you mean?" She said, "Not everybody owned cars like you see out here. Not everybody got to own those. I never owned any of these cars out here, but I own these. I owned a car like this one," and pointed at Vera and said, everybody had these. These are real cars. Everybody has, had one of these back then. So, when I came back up, she said, "Do you, I happened to get back there in time." She's like, said, "Are these you guys' cars?" Yes, yes. And I pointed at Project Spirit. I said, "This one's mine. This one here is my wife. She's, and I said, my wife is actually doing this one, and I'm doing this one." And I gave her. She said, "I'm so glad to see these cars on the road. Um, they're beautiful rides, and it's just good to see real cars." And she repeated, she's like, "I had cars like this. Everyone I knew ended up owning a car like this, in some way, shape, or form." She said, "It's good to see somebody doing cars like this." And I said, "Well, I like the Mavericks." And I ended up telling her a story, and it was just really good. And of course, we got to take home some trophies. So something to think about. All right, that brings us to the end of this episode. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you got something out of it, hit the like button. If you have some feedback for me, or maybe some questions, leave them in the comments below. Or if or if you don't feel comfortable leaving a question or a comment in the comment box below, I'll try to leave my email at the end of the video. As usual. If you're gonna leave any hateful stuff, either A, I'm gonna delete it, or B, I'm going to make fun of you. Either way, it's not gonna be good. And as usual, as always, get out there and work on a project. And I hope to see you at a car show this year. If you have a sweetheart, sweep them off their feet. And as always, if nobody's told any of you that they love you today, Prince Magnum does. God bless you, and have a happy 24. Thank you.
Do you want to go to war, Balaki?
No.
Because we could go to war.
No.
I'm for real. I'm for real.